both of my grandfathers served in the Second World War and survived it. My dad served in Vietnam. He was severely wounded, but he still survived. My brother was in Panama. My son and two nieces and a nephew all served in Afghanistan, survived it. The only one who was ever seriously wounded was my dad. So, but I definitely remember, him. I remember going to Bremerton Naval Base in Seattle and watching him. He was a battalion commander, and he loaded his battalion onto a troop ship. I think this was 1966, I think, to take his battalion to Vietnam. And I remember watching that, and then him coming back in a body cast 7-8 months later. My own experiences, I was in tail end of one firefight in Iraq, but nothing really, and got rocketed and mortared a number of times, but nothing. I was never close to getting hurt or anything. The sacrifices, even in a peacetime army, the military is a tough life, and you spend a lot of time away from your family. But I never felt it was a sacrifice in terms of, I can honestly say in 23 plus years in the Army, I enjoyed going to work every day, and I thought what I was doing was important. So to me, I never felt it was a sacrifice. It was something that I wanted to do, and I enjoyed doing it. So, I don't want to be patted on the back for it, because it's what I wanted to do coming from a military family. I am third generation West Point myself. So my grandfather, my father, my brother all went to West Point. I actually wanted to go to the Air Force Academy, be a jet jockey. But when I got my academy physical, I had some eye issues. So if I couldn't be a pilot, why be in the Air Force? So I ended up going to West Point. I only applied to 3 schools: West Point, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy. So from the time I was a kid, I wanted to go to a service academy and be in the military, because it's kind of the family business. Both of my sons are West Point graduates, so we've got 4 generations, plus a couple of uncles, cousin, a niece, all West Point grads. So it's kind of what we do. It's a fairly traumatic experience. You show up and they cut your hair and you start getting yelled at. It's like basic training. It's all the process of turning civilians into soldiers. It was not a whole lot of fun going through that, but when you look back at it, it's funny. And when I took both of my sons to West Point, and my wife was all stressed out, "Oh, my little babies," and I was there just kind of chuckling, because I knew they would survive it. Looks like it's not easy, but you learn a lot. I had a couple of tours teaching at West Point, so I spent a lot of time there. 4 years as a cadet and 6 years teaching there. So West Point feels like home to me. And then actually I retired in August of 01 and moved to Guilford. And so 3 weeks into retirement, 9/11 hit. And on 9/12, I was on the phone to my Ranger buddy, who was chief of staff of the 101st at the time, saying, "Hey, I'll come back." Made some other calls, and it took a while. But eventually I went back on active duty in 2005, and I went to Iraq, and I worked for General Petraeus, training the Iraqi army. I was on a couple of different, what were known as MIT teams, with the 5th Iraqi Division and 4th Iraqi Division. And I enjoyed that. It was interesting going back on active duty after being away for 4 years. That I run the Camp Resilience program. And so, we started that program to serve veterans and first responders. And, our motto is helping those who served bounce back in mind, body, and soul. So for me, it's important that, the people who volunteer, put their right hand up and volunteer, to serve their country or their community, whether it be in the military or as a first responder, policeman, police officer, firefighter. They are making some sacrifices to serve their country, their community. And many of them, long after their service is done, are still bearing the scars. post-traumatic stress, depression, uh, physical injuries. And so I think, we as a country need to uh, help them recover, help them lead better lives. So that's why, for the past 6 years, I've been doing the Camp Resilient stuff, which it's pretty much a full-time job for me now. I'm fully retired. I don't get paid anything for it, but I get a lot of satisfaction out of it, which is what's really important. I feel like I'm doing something important. I think the country appreciates the military and the first responders more than they used to. Pretty much everybody on my SF team when I first got there in 1981, with the exception of one other guy, had all served in Vietnam. And they talked about, flying back to the States and being spat upon at the airport in San Francisco. We treated our Vietnam veterans horribly. That wasn't the case with Iraq. Even though there was a lot of opposition to the war, I think we had learned enough as a country to realize that you don't blame the servicemen. They're not the ones who get us in the war. They're not the ones who make the decisions. They're the ones who leave their homes and families to go out and serve and put their lives on the line. So I think, I think the country is much more appreciative of that nowadays. So that's good.